This episode of Finding Demo Surf Fishing is being brought to you by Ninja Tackle. Head on over to ninjatackleva.com and go ahead and see all the awesome gear and then put your order in for so many great pieces that they've got over there. The Ninja Tackle 7-foot 4-piece, which means an interchangeable tip, go-to rod. I absolutely love this thing. I've taken it out different times in the surf. I've taken it inshore. I haven't done piers yet, but it's on the list. This rod has been an absolute game changer for me. Yesterday, I was out fishing, throwing 3/8 ounce lures, just slinging them way out there. Great. Couldn't believe it. In the surf, I'm throwing it up to approximately 1 ounce as the max I've thrown out there for any kind of Spanish, bonita, any kind of the predatories. Dude, I'm launching that thing 70, 80 yards. No problem. Close to 100 with a tailwind. Love the tailwind days. But this rod has been so versatile, I've been able to use it in the surf and inshore. I could probably use it offshore. It's on the list to try. Maybe you need a new surf rod, 12-footer, 11-footer, maybe a 9-footer, 8.6. He's got them all. The Ninja Tackle series or the Ninja Daggers are awesome. So go take a look at those. If you need to get your hands on bait, equipment, stuff like that, ancillary gear, or terminal tackle, yeah, Matt's got them in there too. If you're a firearms enthusiast, hey, Ninja Tactical got you set up there too with weapons, optics, and some other ancillary gear that you'll just have to go see because there's too much for me to list in this ad. But ninjatackleva.com, go on over there, get your order in today. You will not be sorry. Yes, new week, new episode. This one's a little different though. I don't. This is a first for me actually. We're gonna be doing some weird stuff with editing. I know you're not gonna notice too much, but yeah, it's still a fun one. So not too long ago, I went and hung out with Mr. Guy named known as Cameraman Ron. Yep. Went over to his office in Pensacola. We sat down face to face and really just did a fun podcast, talked about fishing, talked about his podcast, what we do, and just chewed the fat for a while. It was really fun. It was fun to do it that way versus, through how I normally run it. But lots of good knowledge, lots of fun pieces, and he's a funny guy. So hopefully this week's episode, you're going to be able to enjoy a little bit of difference in audio and stuff like that. You're going to hear some click-ins from me here after the editing, and not to mention throwing in the bait checks and stuff. But hopefully this episode gives you a little bit of knowledge, and it also gives you a little bit of view into what Ron and I do on the sidelines here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the show. Again, this was previously recorded and on a different location, not here at this one, so you might notice a little difference. But enjoy the show, and let me know what you think. So many different functions.
I wish you all could see him right now. He's like sitting here turning his imaginary knobs. You can play with the knobs if it makes you feel better.
No, that's going to make it worse. Actually, we'll just kick it from here, man. In reality, I'm just glad to be here. I mean, we just finally met face to face at the last meet and greet.
Yeah.
I know you're always busy. I'm always busy. We're always like, all right, we're going to make this work. And then you were kind enough to invite me here to do face to face.
Yeah.
Right down the road. So it made it easy.
Yeah. And I told Brian when we sat down, I'm like, man, I like doing it face to face. The phone calls are great, but I think you can get a better read on the room when you're sitting in front of somebody and you can kind of see how the conversation's going. I know that's what I prefer anyways if I'm sitting down with them. So, if I say something crazy and you don't like it, I want to be able to see the reaction on your face and you're like, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. And you can't get that on the phone unless you just have to tell me to stop.
That's true. That's true. I mean, the hardest thing, like whenever I'm doing podcasts at the house and, you're sitting there and you can do video, and video has been okay.
Yeah.
But the problem that you really run into for me is like you're on, StreamYard. So you're looking at the audio line and you don't get to any of the things. So you can't see it.
Right.
So you don't know where are my peaks, where are my valleys. So I'm talking one level, then the other level's coming in, and the spikes are way off.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
It's like, okay, let me compress, and then let me do this.
And that is why it's nice when you're person to person, because we were looking at the audio lines here when we first got started on the board. If you want to adjust anything for your setup, you can, but I keep it set up kind of a certain way, and it's usually everybody's balanced. And if I get somebody that's sitting down with me, I'll be like, okay, I need to turn their microphone up just a little bit or a little less, and it's much easier to do that here than in post.
Yeah,
for sure.
Take the small wins when you can.
That's right.
So you've been here, and we're going to basically run off from the beginning here, but you've been fishing a long time. So let's start at the beginning. What What got you into fishing?
Well, see, that's a very common misconception there, Mr. Demo, because I haven't been fishing a long time. I've been fishing for 4 years.
That to me is long though.
Well, but I think a lot of my audience thinks that when I moved here 4 years ago, that I was this bass fisherman from Kentucky, and had to learn. I mean, that was just like the common misconception when I first started because why else would you start a YouTube channel as a fishing content creator when you know absolutely nothing about fishing? So everybody just had this assumption that I was, I'd always been a bass fisherman or freshwater, and I really hadn't. Prior to moving to Florida, I had only fished probably less than 10 times my entire life.
Okay.
And then for whatever reason, as you and I were talking about the other day, I was like, I'm going to buy a kayak and I'm going to start a fishing YouTube channel because that makes the most sense for me to do right now. So yeah, I mean, if you consider 4 years a long time, then yeah, I've come a long way in 4 years, I think.
Yeah, I'd say that. 'Cause, on the same one here, and this is going to be funny because a lot of people don't. Most people, half the people probably know this. So I've done fishing most of my life is like onesie twosies, and I suck as a freshwater fisherman. I am the worst freshwater fisherman I know. Like, it is bad, real bad.
Yeah.
When I moved here, that's when I really started beach fishing and getting in. People are like, "You've been doing this long?" I'm like, I've been doing it like 2 years.
Yeah.
But it's the learning curve that I found was like, man, all right, YouTube is great.
Yep.
Loved everything I found, starting with, Tony with Fish Gum, Matt with Bama Beach Bomb, and then finding into the other groups. And I was like, okay, cool. And I started meeting people, and I'm like, all right, great. And then it was like, you're learning. But it was like, something's still missing from this curve. So, yeah, I just kept on grinding away, and it just turned into that. But so yeah, the funny thing, yeah, you're right.
I do think it's so many people don't understand that you can only learn so much from watching videos. You can definitely pick up the basics, but until you get out there and do it and make the mistakes, I think that's the big thing. Is when you make a mistake and you lose a big fish, there's no better teacher. It will humble you very quickly. Sorry, I keep looking over the camera. I'm sorry. I need to be looking at you, not the camera.
No. I'll be looking right there across the way, so don't even sweat it.
Nobody knows where we're looking, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
But there's, nothing will humble you faster than losing a big fish and realizing it was your fault.
Your faults.
Yeah, it's one thing if you if a fish just naturally breaks you off, but if if we're at a 3 Mile Bridge and I'm hooked into a bridge monster and I pull it back and my knot come untied, because your line's all tangled up, that's your fault. There's nobody to blame, and those are you will sit there and learn how to tie a better knot at that point.
Yeah,
it teaches you that. It's one of those things that nothing humbles you faster than when there's no one else around, that you can't blame it on everybody. It's black and white right in front of you. You lost that fish because you made a mistake and you didn't do something right.
Like, I'm getting mad just thinking about it.
Yeah, I know, right? You get mad at yourself. It's like, daggone it. I can't even think about the times that's happened to me.
For me, when you bring that one up, and I know we're kind of straying off questions here. We're kind of
you're fine.
We're kind of free running this one. It's gonna be an interesting episode.
Yeah.
But like when you're at the beach, because I did this in the beginning. You do the old fisherman one, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, twist, go back through the bottom, yank it, pull it, cinch down. You're like, yeah, I got it. And then you cock back, and then you let it sail, and then all you see is that sinker and your line all just going because the knot failed because you tied a horrible knot.
Yeah. You know what my biggest one is? And I don't care to admit this. I forget to open the bail.
Oh, dude.
When I'm surf fishing, it's one thing to cast off a boat or off land, just like normal bass fishing or whatever. It's a very simple process. With surf fishing, the cast is 80% of what you're doing, and you do all this stuff. You make sure your bait's on right. If you got to use the miracle thread like I do, some people don't need that. I have to use it. You get all this stuff going on. You're like, okay, I'm finally ready, and then you cast out and you realize your sinker flies off, your line snaps, and you forgot to open your bail, and you just look at it and you're like, dang, that was my fault. Like 100% that was my fault. You're like looking around trying to blame your wife and she's not even there. So you can't, there's nobody to blame but you.
Those normally come up with a chip text. Hey, by the way, can you put a couple on the side for me?
Yeah, I need some more Sputnik sinkers. Why? I don't really want to talk about it. I broke off on a giant fish. Let's go with that.
Yeah, just know it's not here anymore.
I don't have it. I don't have it with me anymore. Okay, that's 100%.
So nowadays, you've been out here doing a lot of fishing. You do a lot of cool stuff on your channel. Lots of good content, lots of good knowledge pieces there. What type of fishing do you like to do now?
Mainly, I would say 100% from the Mako. I've really, the last 9-10 months, I've really been hitting the Bay Rex. I feel like it's one of the things that I feel like I've figured out. Like, and there's a lot of stuff I've not figured out. By no means am I great at it, but it's one of the things that I've figured out, where the fish are hiding around the wrecks. And when I first got down here, I was like, the fish are just down there. You just drop it wherever and they'll eat it. And that's just not the case. I mean, it's based on the tide, whether it's incoming, outcoming, which side of the wreck they're on, ambush points. But the last 6 to 9 months, I really feel like I've put together at least a workable knowledge of going out here and fishing these bay wrecks. And then we've got some stuff in the works that's going to allow us to get offshore a little bit more. So nice. I'm excited to go out there and do that. Can't release that just yet. Sarah will kill me, but we do have some stuff working right now that's going to allow us to get out there and do some more of that stuff too. So I'm really excited about that coming up.
Perfect. So the boat has been your super happiness lately, and then the learning curve for that one.
Yeah, for sure. And then again, I think that stems from I'm not very good at beach fishing. I've not done it a ton. I've had some great teachers along the way. I've been out with Matt from Bama Beach Bum. Obviously, everybody knows that, and done a little bit with Brad, and Brad's an excellent surf fisherman, but I'm not very good at it. I'm not good at, I can go out and say that I'm reading the water, but I still don't think I have a really, really great understanding of, a little bit I know what I'm looking at, but I still don't think I've got a full grasp on it like I do other areas of fishing. And it's just a lack of doing it. I need to get out there and be on the beach more and just learn how to read the water a little bit better. So
let's talk about that. I mean, you're talking about a knowledge piece in itself, because reading the beach is it's an art to some. Yeah. And I'm granted, I've just had that one conversation this weekend with Sid Little, the guy that won the tournament, nailing a 4-pound pompano, 19-inch, beautiful slab. Yeah. And then on top of that, he freaking comes in with a haymaker of a
whiting. Yeah, I saw that.
And I'm like, Sid, you've already got the friggin' state record, dude. Like, how are you finding these monsters? And Sid's like, dude, I've been doing this my whole life, man. Yeah. He does commercial, offshore. He's just been really doing this. And I think it was Justin, or it might have been, or somebody else, I can't remember, said that they were talking to him about it, and getting the knowledge piece, not really like, hey, I don't want your spot, I don't care.
I just want to know how you found that spot originally, not where it's at. Yeah.
And Sid was like, I just read the beach, found my spot, and it's like, well, what do you mean by read the damn beach, man? Because everybody's different with it. Yeah. Like, I walk out, I'm looking for rips. That's that's the only thing I'm really good at reading. I'll find a rip and I'm happy. But yeah, reading is a hard knowledge piece. So for you, though, what do you look for when you're going out there? Like, all right, I'm going to go fish the beach. What am I going to do?
I mean, the biggest thing for me, I kind of look for calm water and rough. I think that's kind of like looking for those rips. When that water's coming in, I'll typically watch for, and again, this is not me being like, hey, this is what you should do. With my very, very little knowledge that I have when I walk out there, if there's kind of rollers and I see a spot where they're not necessarily breaking in a place that they're breaking everywhere else, that usually kind of tells you that there's a little bit deeper water right there. Right. And if you can find a channel through the bar that leads into a deep hole, that's a really good spot. I do know that. I mean, and it's tough. I think it's easier to find once the sun comes up. I think you're in a little bit better position because you can just see deeper water. But most of us are out there pre-sunrise. So the only way to do it is to read the water, unless you're willing to pick all your stuff up once the sun comes up, and unless you just get lucky and put one in a hole. So
I mean, I'm not saying that I'll put a stake in the ground the night before or 2 nights before for a landmarker, but
that's not a terrible idea. What do those stakes look like? I'm just going to go out and just find Brian's stakes. See them. You're that guy that's digging the hole that all the turtle people are getting mad about, aren't you?
Those holes, dude. I've nearly, Justin and I have nearly fallen into 2 or 3 of those things, and we're always kicking them to close. It's like, oh my, just fill in your damn hole.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy because we all joke about the turtle people, but they're very real on the coast. But it really is extremely dangerous, especially for surf fishermen. Oh yeah. And the reason I say that is because a lot of times when we're out there, if you're not wearing a headlamp and I mean, I know I'm guilty of it. I'll just walk out on the beach. There shouldn't really be anything in the beach impeding your path. You're pulling your surf cart and you're like listening to the water. You're watching the water, trying to watch where you're going to fish at. And the next thing you know, you're in a 2-foot hole and you're not even sure exactly what happened to you just now. And you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm hurt. So,
oh no, just thinking about that made me buckle a little.
Yeah, it's happened to the best of us at some point. Luckily, I picked up a light sponsorship on the channel or partnership, so I have an endless supply of headlamps from Powersmith. So that's always a good thing. Now, literally that happened because one of my subscribers, it works for them, and I shot a video one morning. It was like super dark, and I was walking out on the beach, and he reached out. And he's like, "Man, I'd love to send you some lights," and that just ended up leading. They've been great partners of my channel for a while, so it was cool because now I have all these headlamps at the house. So if I ever fall in another hole, there's no excuse,
none,
100% another thing that's my fault.
No, I didn't. That's pretty cool. They sent you a headlamp, man.
Yeah, we've been up and done some stuff with them at their place up in South Carolina. They've sent us tons of headlamps. They're the one that gave me the big tea light that I use for all of my night fishing stuff. It really was a game changer because up until that point, from a content creation standpoint, you can't do night fishing. I mean, you can do it, but if you do, it makes no sense because nobody's going to watch a dark video just where you're talking. So by introducing that to the channel, it works perfectly for beach dock lights. I can throw it on the Mako, and we can make content at night, and it looks just as good as daytime content. So that was a huge pickup for the channel.
Yeah, that's a monster win.
It is.
Like, I'm still using this Amazon one that I have just because it's got this focal point. Because if you're on the beach at night, cause normally 9 times out of 10, I'm an evening fisherman.
Sure.
Give me that sunset bite. I am happier about that than I am the sunrise bite. No, I may not like to wake up early anymore after many years of doing it, so that could be part of it. But, if you don't have the right headlight, the job's even harder.
It is.
You're like, all right, where's the line? Am I crossed? Or am I down? Or are you short? Are you long? Where are you now?
Yeah.
Oh, where's the shore monster?
Yeah.
Because we all know the shore monster eats pompano.
Yes. I've lost 2. I've not caught a pompano yet this year.
Really?
I have not. Now, I've only been beach fishing probably 4 or 5 times, but I've not caught a pompano yet this year. I've hooked 2. Both of them lost them on the bar. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is only April. I mean, so
but
you haven't been out. It doesn't count, really.
But do you feel like and I'm gonna ask Brian questions today too. So while
we're double tap.
Yeah, we're doing this on both sides. Do you feel like we're later this year? Because I feel in my mind, and just based on like my other 3 years here, I just feel like we're late. Like I feel like it has already kicked off and like is rolling by now.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's the starting point, I'd say.
Right.
I mean, I would expect when I think of April, I think first 2 weeks of April, it's gonna begin. You're gonna get nuggets.
Yeah.
But come mid-April, that's when we're gonna start turning it on. And end of April, it's full throttle. Let's get after it.
Yeah.
So I could see on late a little bit. Yeah, it was later than I wanted, but we also had the other factors.
Right.
I mean, we've had 5 weird cold snaps.
Yeah, like extremely weird for our area. Because we went and it looked good because I remember back at the end of February, beginning of March. If you're not familiar with our area, here in the Florida Panhandle, it always seems like the end of Florida, beginning of March, you see a lot of big pompano being caught, but they're just one-off pompano. They're not. It's not people like loading their cooler up. You'll see a post on Facebook and be like, caught a 3.5 pound pomp today, and they're all big, and that's normal. So I was like, the pompano run's going to hit in here early April like it does, and we're going to be great, and then it just never materialized. But it was because we went through. In March or the end of February, beginning of March, we went through, like you said, 5 different times where our temperatures dropped down near freezing at night, which for us is not good for the fishing. I mean, and then I made a comment in my YouTube video this week. Last week and this week had truly been like the first signs I've seen of the warm water fish showing back up. The Spanish mackerel are back in the bay. I'm starting to see the stingrays school up near, which means they're in their mating pattern and having babies. So that, the sharks are showing back up. So it's like, and as much as you don't want to like have to deal with sharks, that's a surefire sign that they're moving back in because the bigger fish have come in. So this last 2 weeks has been good. Like in the boat, it's been really good.
It is the first bait check of the episode, so bring that line in, check on that thing, make sure it's good to go. Maybe you need to change up the bait a little bit if you haven't gotten any, or maybe if you have, maybe it's a different zone. Who knows? It's the fun part of this whole thing of fishing. Check that bait, get it back out there. This bait check is being brought to you by DS Custom Tackle. Head over to dscustomtackle.com and get your world exploded with lots of cool things. You need some jigs? Yeah, he's got them. Maybe you need some beads or some floats? Why, yes, he does. They got them in there. And the great thing about DS Custom, it's not just a Florida thing. They're actually based out of the Delaware area. All the stuff they sell will work pretty much anywhere in your different regions. So lots of good things. If you're also set up to start making or selling rigs and you're looking for a wholesaler or someone to do supplying, reach out to DS Custom Tackle, talk to them. They may be able to hook you up and get you all set up for success. Gotta love Barry's rig. The BS fishing. Oh man, surf. I love Barry. You guys know that. You've seen me fishing with him before. His rig is pretty nice and it's done really well. So another really good one to get your hands on. So go over to dscustomtackle.com, get your order in today. 2023 has been a funny one for fishing because in January we had the colds and all those pieces, but we started catching bonefish.
Yeah.
We don't get bonefish up here
Yeah,
very
and
often.
I'm pretty confident though that was 100% because of that hurricane that hit down. I think they just you never really think about that, about a fish's ability to just get away. And if a situation gets uncomfortable, that's why we have such a hard time winter fishing here. If you're freshwater fishing, you just have to work harder to catch the bass. They're there. You just got to find them, and you got to work harder to catch them. That's not the case here. If you're trying to catch pompano or Spanish or something like that, it's not going to happen in November, December, January, and February. It's just they're not here. They leave and they go to warmer water. And I think those bonefish and all that stuff started pushing up. I think somebody with the internet these days, it's hard to tell. But somebody posted a picture of like a 19, 20-inch snook that they caught in Bayou Chico. Right. Again, is it real? I don't know, because I've got a perfectly good picture of me holding a 20-inch snook that I can put I can be anywhere in the world. I could have caught that in a drain pipe in Manhattan, according to my picture, if I wanted to. It's hard to tell anymore what's real and what's not. But they did say that they caught that there, and that was that same time that we were catching bonefish. And I'm wondering if those snook didn't get pushed up here. It was the lesser of two evils. It was either deal with a little bit colder water, or deal with all that stuff that was getting just pumped into the water out of the hurricane down there.
Yeah. And with the mixing up of the waters, the intercoastal waterway, so many great fish and so many great migratory species. And this year, the tuna were a little late at the pier. I know people are like, they're going to be here any day, and it took a couple weeks. And then on the flip side, all of a sudden, we got Okaloosa talking about, hey, we've got cobia. Oh, hey, the kings are here. We're close. We're on time for the kings. And there was other ones where they're like, we're a little early for this, but hey, it's pretty cool we caught it.
Yeah.
So I think we've seen some interesting pieces of, I don't know, want to call it weather or whatever it may be, current changes. Had a great conversation with Nick Meyer about that with currents in the Gulf of Mexico. And I was like, dude, you're talking like masterclass level. I need you to break this back down Barney style.
Yeah, like something I can understand. Yeah, right. Please.
But the fishing has been, hit and miss and good. And then like, it's kind of a barren graveyard of nothing. Yeah. And then the zombie catfish always show up, and you're like, oh, there's fish, I guess.
At least I did get a cat, which is funny because I went down, I guess, probably about a month ago now. I went down and fished with Darcizzle and Brian down in Miami because I'm on a quest to catch 50 different species this year. Like, that's one of the things I really wanted to do on the channel. Last year was an 8-pound bass. Okay. I realized really quickly that in order to catch an 8-pound bass, you have to spend a lot of time focusing on bass fishing, which is great if that's all you do. But I don't want to spend that much time just trying to catch a bass. So I wanted something a little more realistic this year. And I was like, hey, I travel a lot. I want to try to catch 50 different species on the channel. So I went down and did a little trip with them. Literally the first fish I caught on the boat with them was a hardhead catfish.
Of course.
And I'm like, go figure. But I hadn't caught one yet this year. So I'm like, there you go. And it's still the only one I've caught. I've only caught the one hardhead catfish all year. Fingers crossed we hold that up. So
no more of those after this.
No, I'm done. So I did catch, I don't know if you saw my Facebook post. I actually had a very, very rare catch in Pensacola Bay 2 or 3 days ago. I caught a cubby ewe.
That's right. And I saw you do hey, what is this?
Yeah, because I was
scrolling like, I don't even know what that
nobody,
is.
Chris Veche was the one.
Chris?
It's funny. So I don't know if they're familiar with Chris or if you're familiar with Chris, but very, very knowledgeable fisherman. I mean, probably holds more knowledge about fish than anybody else in our area. So the second I saw Christopher Veche pop up, I was like, well, we're about to find out what it is. Because I'm like, if he didn't know, he's not one of those guys that would just jump on there and be like, oh, this might be, if Chris takes the time to get on there and make a comment, he's probably going to be right. So when he hopped on there and he's like, hey, this is a cubby ewe, like, no question. I looked it up. Sure enough, that's what it was. Okay. And I'm just like, it's not a rare fish at all.
It's not common to our area.
It's not common to our area. And I caught 2 of them. And then we got to looking up, and it was not even close. I'm not trying to make it sound like that, but it was I'm guessing probably 1.5 pounds, 1.75 pounds on the first one. The state record is only 2.3 pounds. Now, it was nowhere near the 2.3 pounds. It was definitely not that big. The video will come out later on next week, but it was a good sized one. It was not close to the state record because it was, at least 3/4 pound shy of it, but to catch one that big, because the other one I caught was tiny, the second one, but the first one, I'm like, it looked like a striper had a baby with a redfish. Like, it 100% did. That's what the fish looked like. So it was wild.
Well, the comments were funny too because they were talking about it looks like this with a mixture in this, and it's like, what is this?
Yeah, and nobody really knew. And literally, no one even came close. And I didn't know either. I mean, this is not me like bashing the people commenting. That's why I put it out there. I put a video and a still photo of it. I'm like, guys, I need help on ID with this one. Because normally I've got a big enough circle that I can send that text out and be like, hey, you know what this is, and I'll get a response back. But a lot of my creator friends didn't know. They're like, have no clue. So I put it out there, and a lot of people were saying that it was in the drum family, which it is, and they were basing that off that bottom feeder mouth.
Right.
But it was cool to catch that. I mean, that was definitely, those are the fun ones when you grab something like that and you just have no clue. And everybody's like, you should have ate it. And I'm like, you can't just keep fish if you don't know what they are. Like, it could be like the most protected species in our waters, and I ate it. Like, you don't want to do that. So
It's the other sturgeon.
yeah, the other sturgeon. Exactly right. Oh my God. Yeah, there's only 2 here, and I caught the other one.
Yep.
So
Well done
yeah,
indeed.
exactly.
Well, the fishing pieces for you, you're going to catch 50 species on your travels. Are you doing Catch a Florida Memory too to be able to document and track that?
I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, well, I feel like a bad person for asking that.
No.
So, Catch a Florida Memory program, and for those of you guys listening, you've heard the episode. It dropped not too long ago. Basically, it's Florida. Wow, I'm saying this the worst way. FWC has a program where basically you log all your catches.
Okay.
And you can compete for prizes. So if you get like an inshore slam and then the grand slam and another one, they have 3 slams right now, you could win one of the kayaks.
Okay,
So
I got you.
They're heavily involved with these. So basically, you submit your fish for catches, and if you get recognized on this, you can win stuff.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it's kind of cool for that. And then they've got different life lists. Like they've got the 75. I think it's the 75 life list. Basically, there's only about 6 people on there.
Yeah.
And they've caught 75 fish from this list.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so easy. You just submit the picture, tap a couple things, they approve it, and it's like,
nice.
all right, cool. So you have a running record for Florida. Of what you
Okay,
catch.
so what I'm doing something similar to that, but I'm doing it on my own website.
Okay.
So it is something that my audience is involved with. I mean, definitely would be on a much broader scale to put it on the FWC stuff, but I do. So each week on Friday, I update my species list if there was anything new caught that, and all of our audience can go on there and just look at what we've caught that so far. Some of them are really funny ones. Like I don't want to say too much because I don't know when this is going to come out, but
it'll only be a couple weeks.
Okay, so at that point, this video will have dropped. I caught a soapfish, which it was funny because I took, like I said, I've had a lot of people down on the boat. Brian and I were talking before we got started. I've just had a lot of people come down that I've been taking out fishing. I'm not a charter guide. Everybody thinks I've started a charter service, and I have not at all. These are just friends of mine from Kentucky that are coming down, and obviously when they come down, they like to go fishing. Well, the first group that came down caught a soapfish. Then I had a subscriber reach, and literally we're fishing side by side. So then I had a subscriber that contacted me, and her little boy wanted me to take him on a birthday trip. So we were able to work that out. We took them out on a birthday trip. He caught a soapfish, then she caught a soapfish. So then my buddies come down from the gotcha, and I've still not caught one for the 2023 species. And guys, if you don't know what a soapfish is, it's literally the tiniest fish in the ocean, and it's like it feels like a booger. Essentially, that's all we're talking about here. This is nothing heroic. But I'm getting aggravated at this point. So then my guys come down on the guys trip. First drop, Jerry pulls up a soapfish. I'm like losing my mind. I'm like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. So I finally caught a soapfish. So I'm like taking these pictures and holding this like 4-inch soapfish out like it's a king mackerel, or I just caught a grand marlin or something like that. I was proud of that fish for all the work I put into catching. You got to take the little wins.
It is.
That's
yes.
right.
It is not a skunk, and it counts as an absolute.
Oh, I don't know.
I touched it again.
I don't know. Here, let me do this.
I got it. I touched it.
I'm going to tuck that under here because I think it's just putting pressure on it. That's all it is.
Bruh.
There we go. We're good.
Winning. There we go.
We're just continually like messing with Brian's audio.
It's all right. I need the challenge. It keeps me on my toes.
That's right. But that's the good thing about the headset. Everybody's like, why do you guys wear you guys can't see us, but we're both wearing headsets. And that's why. For everybody that asks if you see one of my videos about why we wear headsets, it's because if you're not watching the audio lines and you're not wearing a headset and somebody's mic messes up, you'll never know it. And then you'll get to post and you'll have a 15-minute segment that's usually some of the best stuff that you did, and there's no audio for it because the microphone wasn't working. So
you're just talking about that hurts my heart thinking about, no, I lost it.
Yes.
No, okay, we need to re-record that word for word. Can you do that?
Can you reenact that like with the same emotion and everything that we had that day? Because that was golden. Like, that's what I need.
So when you're at the beach, because like you said, that's not your favorite.
I don't want to say it's not my favorite. It's what I'm the most inexperienced at. I really, really enjoy it. I'm just not very experienced and I'm not very good at it. But I certainly enjoy it.
Oh, all right. Let me rephrase.
Well, yeah, I don't want to make it sound like I don't like the beach, because I do love being out there and being beach fishing. I'm just not very good at it.
So when you're out, if you're going to go beach fishing, then how do you plan your trip to get out there?
I start off by praying a lot. So no, typically just the knowledge that I have been given. I get, we're lucky enough to partner with Ninja Tackle, and they've sent me several surf rods. So I've got really good surf fishing equipment. So that part of it is really nice. So I've got all the setups, and I basically just go off of what I've learned. Now, typically when I do get out there, I do try to stagger my baits. I don't ever go out there and put out all shrimp or all sand fleas or all ghost shrimp. If I can get my hands on all three, I try to put one on each rod. And that's just I think that really speaks to my level of an experience. It's like, that's the best way for me to try to figure out exactly what's biting or what they're eating that day. Because obviously with any fishing, that's going to be the main thing. So, and I've had days where I've went out there, in the last couple of years, where I put out sand fleas and that's all I used, and I never caught a fish. And then somebody came up beside me and they had shrimp and they put it out there and they were just destroying them. Yeah. So it does matter. So I typically, when I go out there and set up, I've heard a lot of people talk about the zones of surf fishing. So I'm always conscious when I start casting out rods that, I don't just go out there and just heave one as far as I can throw it. There's one out that far, and then I'll try to put one like medium strength, and then always one close up, because the last couple pompano I've hooked have been 25 yards off the beach. I mean, they were very, very close. So everybody thinks that you got to get it out like, just halfway to Cuba, and sometimes that's true. Sometimes that's where they're at, but you're never going to know. If you go out there and if you're running a 4-rod setup, and again, this is just in my opinion, I don't want to make it sound like I'm like offering life-altering knowledge here, because we all know that's not true. I'm not trying to be something I'm not. But when I go out there, I try to put one out as far as I can get it, and I try to put one about medium and one close. And then the fourth one, I usually run a 4-rod setup, and then that fourth one, I'll just wherever it ends up on that one. But you have to be mindful of what you do, when you put those out, because if you do catch a fish or you get hit and you put it back out in the same place and it gets hit again, that should tell you, okay, that's where all 4 of my rods need to be. That's going to give me the best chance of success today.
So when you're out there, do you have a specific target in mind at the beach, or are you just, all right, we're going to go after beach fish?
If I'm beach fishing, I'm targeting pompano.
Okay.
I'm just not experienced enough to go out there and do the. I mean, if a redfish eats it, I can catch it. But literally, in all the time I've been down here, I've only caught 2 redfish from the surf, and I've never caught a black drum from the surf. I know they're out there. I just don't really usually target them. Now I take that. I have been out and targeted sharks before, because the thing about sharks for us, nobody wants to deal with them. But when your friends from Kentucky come to town, that's what they want to catch a shark. Like, that's it. It doesn't matter how big it is. They just want the pictures to send back and say that they caught a shark. So I will put a shark setup out at, if we're there. And again, I don't know that I'm doing that right, but it's just all stuff I've picked up on from I've caught sharks. So, I mean, it's obviously doing something right. Yeah, I've caught a few. So,
I mean, our area has this great thing, in my opinion here. I mean, you could throw a double drop out. And you could throw, everything at it. Fish bites, fish gum, fleas, ghost shrimp. You can throw everything.
Yep.
And you'll be amazed. And it's just, something's going to hit.
Yep.
Whether it's a black drum, red drum, palm.
They're
whiting.
not picky.
No. And then, but we have such a myriad of fishing and catchable out here. Hell, I've caught Spanish on a set rig. Yep. I'm like, what are you doing, man? You're Spanish. You're an attacker.
And I'm going to tell you right now, if you guys aren't familiar with, if you're listening in and you're not really familiar with surf fishing, the worst thing you can catch on a double drop set rig is a Spanish. Oh. Because let me tell you right now, I don't care if you catch a 10-inch Spanish mackerel, you just lost a double drop set rig. You're not getting that untangled, because they just go berserk. And it's like, I don't know what's different about it. I don't know if it's because they're so slim and the line can get wrapped around them a lot easier. I don't know what it is, but if you catch a Spanish on a set rig, that set rig's destroyed. You're going to get your hook by your sinker back off of it, and that's going to be about all that's going to be usable, in my experience. It's just they tear them up really bad.
Oh, the teeth on those damn things. That's just like, hold on,
don't lip them.
No, don't. Between them and bluefish, don't put your fingers in there.
Or in my mind. And of course, everybody knows I love to catch mangrove snapper. It's probably my favorite fish to target. I don't know why. I know they're like the bluegill of the sea, and maybe that's why I like them so much, because they're fairly not difficult to catch. But I'm a firm believer. Like, I've had them clamp down on a pair of pliers and different things. I'm a firm believer. If one of those ever got your finger, you'd be hurt, because when they clamp down, it's like, I don't know how much pressure they have, but it's a lot. You know, I mean, I can't imagine that feeling because I always give fish the belly, and people always tell me one of these days one of these snappers is going to bite my nipple, and I hope that's not true. But if it does, that'll be my very first big viral video. Is that man gets nipple bitten off by a mangrove snapper? Like that'd be who doesn't want to watch that?
Oh, and you know what the worst one is? You're gonna be like, oh,
yeah,
cringe.
But you know what? I've always said. Because I did see a video one day where a guy got bit by a mangrove snapper. I guess he didn't know what he was doing, and he lipped it. And he screamed when it clamped down on him. But when he really screamed is like when you know how they kind of let go and reattach? That's when he really screamed. Like when the snapper reaffirmed his bite, that's when the dude really like let loose. And he's shaking it. If you've never seen the video, it's hilarious because he's trying to shake it off and it's literally just ripping his skin on his thumb. And the guy that he was with a guide, and the guide was trying to tell him not to do that. And he was just like flinging it. And finally the guide like grabbed the fish in the guy's hand and stopped him. But he was like, he ripped a big chunk of meat up because I mean you do this, they're just gonna rip the meat off your bones,
right?
It's like that's their job, that's how they eat.
Well, it's like them and trout.
Yes,
those two little vampire teeth, you see that, you know, if you're not paying attention, if you're not from here, you know, like, oh hey, I've heard this is a trout, and if you haven't thought about it, like you better look at that mouth because those little vampire fangs, they go deep. The
rule of thumb is if it's a saltwater fish, it has teeth.
Don't lip it.
Like there's every now and then, like if I catch a small rat red, I'll lip it just for a picture of the video because they don't have teeth. They've got very similar to what a bass has. I don't even know what it's called, but it's just like a rough patch on the inside of their lips. So even the bigger redfish don't really have teeth, but they've got that patch and it'll hurt you because they have so much pressure in their jaws. But every now and then if it's a small redfish, I'll lip it, but that's about the only thing. Now, I did lip one like 45-pound black drum one day, but it was completely out of necessity. I was fishing with Kyle Kovartek. We were fishing over at Waypoint Park.
Okay.
And he hooked it, and this fish ran him all over the place, and it got in, and it was in rebarb and concrete, and lines were tangled, and I didn't have anything with me. So literally, I just reached down there and just stuck my four fingers in his mouth and just grabbed it and picked it up. And he clamped down on me. Luckily, he didn't hurt me too bad. But I did do that. And I mean, I knew what I was doing, but we were shooting a video, and I really wanted to help him land this fish. And it was like, well, I don't think it's going to take my fingers off. It's probably just going to hurt. He definitely roughed me up a little bit, but it didn't, it didn't like take my fingers off or anything. So
this is why I always have the Batman belt with my fish grips in it.
Yes,
because I'm like, nope, come here.
That's in my mind. That is one of the greatest inventions ever in the fishing industry. I don't know how long that's been around, but there's more people saved by fish grips because it makes it much safer to handle your fish, no matter what fish you're handling, whether it's a pompano on the beach or a redfish. You get those fish grips on it, you can control that fish. It takes away the sliminess of it and all that, so you're able to control that fish while you're getting lines out. Because I would venture to guess if you ran a poll on when people get hooked the most, it's when they're trying to remove hooks from fish because they're not controlling their fish when they're trying to get the hook out. And it becomes, people don't understand the danger of it at that point. It's not necessarily the fish that you're worried about. You're still dealing with an extremely sharp object. Sometimes three of them if you're fishing with a treble hook.
The treble.
And they can get you really quick if you're not careful. So
trebles are just like they're equal opportunity stabbers.
Yes, like they'll get you in any way possible. 100%. There's no judgment on a treble hook's part.
So with you doing all this traveling, because like you said, you've done a lot, and I've seen some of your videos where you've been moving around different places, and you've got a list this year and a goal. What do you do when you're going to go fish in a new place?
Well, it depends on what I'm fishing. If I'm fishing saltwater, I'll usually reach out to other creators and just see if I can kind of tag along with them. Of everything I do, I'm very, very bad at finding fish, and I mean that wholeheartedly. And a lot of times if I'm traveling to freshwater, I'll look for a spot and people are like, oh, go fish Lake Martin. Lake Martin's not a good idea for me because if I knew how to find fish, that would be great. What I need is a little farm pond because I'm not able to read the water and say, okay, this is where the fish are going to be. But with a small farm pond, I can fish the whole thing. So in that case, if I don't, like when I go to South Florida, I love fishing the canals because there's fish there. It's not, you're not having to try to find fish. So, canal systems obviously wouldn't go down to Highway 41. It's feast or famine. I mean, it's one of those deals where you can put South Florida it's such a unique fishery in the fact that there are very few places you can't just pull off the side of the road and start fishing and find really good fish. So that's the beauty of being down there. And then, but if I'm traveling to somewhere like off, if I'm going to Kentucky or Michigan or something like that, I usually try to link up with another creator or somebody that I know there that I can, at least, I don't want their honey hole, but just a place where I can go and like kind of figure it out. And we've been very, very blessed to network and really work with some big creators. That's allowed me to use that ability to really get on some fish in different places. Has been a really, really cool deal. So
what made you want to start a YouTube channel?
I don't know. It was the word. I don't know. Well, I mean, honestly, so in all seriousness, like I guess you would say I do come from an entertainment background. I was DJ. I've been a DJ for 11, 12 years. I used to run karaoke. I've DJed weddings for, over 400 people. So I've always had somewhat of an entertainment background, and I dabbled in it a little bit in Kentucky. My son we sit around and make goofy little videos together. And then when I got down here, it was just, there was water everywhere. I'd always wanted to move to Florida. It was always a goal of mine and my wife's. We've been married for 20 years. And one of our goals when we first got married was at some point we wanted to try living in Florida. And when I got down here, unfortunately, when we first came down, or fortunately, I mean, depending on how you look at it, our transition was a little different than most, because in the wedding industry, which is what we do, we're wedding videographers and photographers and DJs and all that stuff. It's not a job that you can just walk away from. It's not a job that you can just walk into. And what I mean by that is it's a planning process. So for the first year we were here, we still had a lot of weddings in Kentucky, and we had a lot of weddings down here. So my wife was still working a public job for an attorney in Louisville. So she didn't have as much freedom scheduling wise as I did. So I was usually doing most of the weddings down here. Well, sometimes I would be down here for a week by myself, and I'm like, you can only handle so much time by yourself. And you're like, what are we doing here? So I went out and bought a kayak about 2 or 3 months. Sorry, I've got the hiccups. I went out and bought a kayak like 2 or 3 months after, and I had all the camera equipment, obviously, because we were wedding videographers. And I was watching these YouTube videos about how to learn how to fish, and I was like, hey, I can do this. And I think I told you the story. When I first started, I was like, I had my kayak, I had all this nice camera gear. I mean, we were blessed to have good gear from the start because we had it for our business. And I'm sitting right over on Bayou Chico under the bridge, and I caught a black drum. And I think it was like March, or late February, early March. And I like literally looked right at the camera, and I was like, man, I was really expecting a sheep's head. I said, I said the water conditions should be right for sheep's head. And I'm like, I'm going on this, and I just stop. And I'm like, you can literally, if you go back and watch this video, you can see a light bulb go off over my head. I'm like, what do you have no idea what you're talking about? So I literally just said that. I stopped talking, and I was like, guys, I'm lying to you. I'm like, I have no idea what the right water conditions for sheep's head are. I'm like, I don't even know what bait to use for sheep's head. I surely don't know what setup to use. And from that day on, I decided that I was not going to try to act like I knew how to fish. I was just going to bring people along on a journey of me learning how to fish. And that's what our channel is always based on: the good, the bad, the ugly. I've posted videos before where I didn't catch a single fish all day, and I brought people along, and I'm like, hey, it was a struggle today. Like I did everything I thought I should be doing, and I just didn't catch fish. And I mean, and I always add some entertainment and all that. Of course, we got the Eugene character that we add in for all the funny stuff and that side of things. So, I've always just tried to be entertaining and just, bring people along and just kind of document the journey of learning, new water and learning this content creation world in itself. And I've always been fascinated with video. So, I mean, I guess it was just kind of an obvious thing to do once I got down here and started fishing a little bit. And then the next thing I knew, it had consumed me, and it was all I could think about was making YouTube videos. And here we are today. So.
It is your second bait check of the episode. Hopefully you got a bunch of fish, because that's the greatest thing here as we go through these. If not, all right, change it up. Get it out there. Bring it back in. Get going, continuing with some fun fishing. This bait check is being brought to you by the Kids Can Fish Foundation. I cannot say enough great things about them. You all have heard me talk about it every week on every episode. Yes, they're on the advertising, but they do so many great things for kids. They just recently finished another really good one where they got the kids out there showing them different tips and techniques on how to fish. Great turnout. They are out of the St. Simon Island area in Georgia. Hopefully one day it'll be national, but all the cool stuff that they're doing with these clinics and getting these kids together is 100% from your donations. There's also still the SSI Running of the Bulls tournament out of St. Simon's Island. There is room still to sign up, so you can get on that one. I will be there. Salty McCrory will be there. Smitty from Smitty Surf Fishing, he will be there. The list is slowly growing of people that might start showing up. So there's going to be some fun people, fun stuff there. And not to mention the East Coast crew. You're going to see them. You got Chip coming. Barry, I believe, is going. We should see Fishing with Cullen. We should have them. That whole team's coming up. Man, there's so many more. But anyway, lots of cool stuff going on with that tournament. Really fun thing to be a part of. Kids Can Fish takes all that money that you all help them, and they make the community better. These kids are learning. That is phenomenal. So go over to kidscanfish.net, help them out, come out and support and do one of these tournaments. You won't be sorry. It's a ton of fun. And hey, like they always say, more tackle boxes, less X boxes. Let's get these kids out there and fish and help them out. We were talking about this. For those of you that didn't know this, here's a little fun demo history. So my wife was also a wedding photographer in California.
Yeah.
She did wedding photography, videography, and the amount of gear that you all have to get for weddings. And then on top of that, when after the wedding is done, like I used to make the joke, all right, 4-hour wedding. All right, I've lost you for right around 60 hours.
Yes, 100%.
You're just, it's gone. Yeah. And I'd wake up, my wife's in front of the computer, culling, adjusting, making pieces cleaned up, getting it ready for the books, and then hold on, I got to mash up the audio with the video. Oh, his mic was off a little bit here. Hold on, I got to retweak that.
Yeah, it's a process.
Y'all got some hours invested in that world,
and so many people don't realize that. They think that they see, but it's that I say that to say that it's that way in a lot of the industries.
Oh, definitely,
and we'll get to that, but like. Yes, if we do a 7-hour wedding day, which is our most normal standard package, that between Sara and I, you're looking at somewhere between 60 and 80 hours. If we do video and photography both, you're looking more close to 100 hours. And that's per wedding. And, 3 years ago, we did 121 weddings in 2021. In 2022, we did 96 weddings. So we've gradually been dialing it back. So, yeah, we're gluttons for punishment. We know. And then on top of that, we're full-time content creators. We've never wavered from that. We've always made the time. My wife, God love her heart, is the hardest working woman I've ever met in my life. And she's so supportive, and of course she has her own content, her own channel now as well. But she's always been so supportive of my dreams and what I wanted to do. And that's vital because she does log so many hours. And then when I took on more of the role of like doing more filming for the YouTube side of things, that obviously took me away from the wedding side of things. And she was having to pick up that workload. And she's been a saint through it all. I mean, and of course now we've dialed it back a little bit to where we have more freedoms to do, content creation stuff, because I knew she really wanted to get herself a channel started. But, the end of 2022, the beginning of 2023, we've really kind of dialed back the weddings. We're not doing nearly as many as what we were doing. And we did that specifically so we could, focus more on content creation.
For the next people that go to a wedding, we assure you the wedding photographer's camera is better than your iPhone camera. Just stay in your seat.
Put it down, especially if you're wearing bright clothes. Like, if you go to a wedding and you're wearing bright clothes, sit your ass down. I'm sorry, pardon the language, but don't. Like, I've literally had women in, like, neon orange dresses standing up in the middle of the aisle as the bride's coming down. We see you. Okay, we see you. Sit down. It's bad enough that you wore bright orange to a wedding. Sit down. Sit down.
It's hard to edit the bright image sometimes.
Oh my God.
It's like, I promise I'm going to get the great shot that you're not going to get for walking.
And it's gotten so much to the point now. We've been doing wedding videos for, I guess, 7 or 8 years. So, I mean, ever since we've been doing wedding videos, camera phones have been a thing. So we've always dealt with it. But it is even more so now with... because you do have a lot more content creators, whether it be TikTok or Facebook or whatever. So everybody thinks they're masters of camera work. And I'm not knocking your TikTok ability. Like, I'm not. Like, I'm sure you make great TikToks, but I make wedding films. You're holding you paid the $1,000 for your iPhone or whatever it is. I'm holding a $6,000 camera setup. I promise you, mine will be better. Just give me the chance and sit down.
You paid $1,000 for maybe one piece of the lens,
yes.
one glass piece.
Yeah, like the lens on this camera costs 3 times what your iPhone costs. So sit down. That's the common theme is sit down. If you're at a wedding, just don't get your phone out. They don't need it. They don't. They probably don't want it. Like, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with little Susie's wedding video that you stood up in the aisle and ruined her wedding with? Like, what are your plans for that? Because that's what you're doing. You're messing up their whole wedding. Don't get me on a tear, Brian, because I will go off on like some like crazy wedding guest people.
So the best part is like I can now hear my wife right now in my head like, yes, he gets it.
Yeah,
because I've always watched her in the editing. Like I'll look over and she's like, damn it. I'm like, what? That was such a good shot.
Yeah.
That this dumbass moved.
And then in video or in picture, you can, there's plenty of technology out there to remove people. That's not the case in video. With video, if you're there, you're there. Like if you got in the way, there's nothing I can do about that. Pictures, we can mash a couple different frames together and make it work. But with a video, if Aunt Susie steps out in the aisle in her bright orange dress while you're coming down the aisle, Aunt Susie's part of your wedding video now. So whether you meant for her to be or not, she is there. If you have an Aunt Susie, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to offend you. That's just the name that comes to mind. So,
or it's somebody that did have the Aunt Susie that did it, and they're like, "Damn Aunt Susie,
yeah,
damn you."
The funniest, I don't want to get on a wedding tear, but the worst thing I was DJing a wedding one night, and just to make the story short, this lady got completely crazy, fell and had compound fractures in both of her wrists. We were on a concrete floor. There was blood everywhere. They had to come get her in an ambulance, take her out. This was like 45 minutes into the wedding reception. And, of course, wedding reception is over at this point. So I found out later that this woman was just like the girlfriend of like a distant uncle. Like just basically some rando at the wedding, like caused all this havoc. And that's where, and she was like not that it would have been any better if she'd have been a close family member, but she wasn't even like close to the family. She was just some rando person that like completely ruined her wedding. I mean, completely ruined it. So,
rage.
Sorry, yeah, for sure.
Pure rage.
Sorry, got off on a wedding tear there.
No, are you kidding? I absolutely love this because in reality, I mean, you know how it is. You do the podcast thing.
Yeah.
3/4 of it's conversation.
Yes,
and I mean,
100. Yeah,
it's just enjoying it.
Yeah.
I have a list of questions, but on the same one, it's like, I'd rather talk and just enjoy it.
Well, fire away. What else you got for me? I'll try to stay on topic. I'm the worst at like wandering off topic.
Girl, same.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's why I have like 95% things written down. I'm like, hold on, I got to get back to that one.
Yeah,
because I'll do it. I will squirrel like it's bad.
It's easy to do when you start talking about a common, interest with other people. It's very, very easy to do.
Yeah. I laughed when I found out you were from Kentucky because I told my wife, and she's like, really? What part? Because she went to WKU.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, yeah, right around your backyard.
Yeah,
there.
I'm actually
from Louisville.
Yeah, right outside of Louisville in Shelbyville, Kentucky. I always say Louisville because it's that way with every state.
Yeah.
If you're from 150 miles within Dallas, Texas, you just tell people Dallas, Texas. You don't say I'm from Beaumont or wherever you're from. And it's the same thing with Kentucky. You're either from Louisville, Lexington, or Northern Kentucky.
Yeah.
And then there are definitely people that will say Paducah, but those people usually don't tell people that if they're from Paducah. I'm just joking. All my Western Kentuckyites, I'm just joking with you guys. But no, we're right outside of Louisville there in Shelbyville. So only about 2 hours and 15 minutes from Bowling Green.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, not at all. I actually go right through Bowling Green. That's on 65 right there.
Yeah.
Obviously coming back and forth. We do a lot of traveling between Kentucky and Florida because we do still have a wedding presence in Kentucky. I mean, it's we built a very, very strong business up there. So we do a lot of traveling, which is cool because my real job, so to speak, the wedding industry, allows me to travel a lot for the fishing side of things. That's what gives us the freedom to, do the fishing trips. Most of the time, if I do a fishing trip, I'm on my way to a wedding and I'll just veer off and go somewhere else and do something else. So,
well, on the fishing one, then, how do you adjust your tactics when the bite's not on fire?
I leave.
No, that's honest.
Yeah, that's just an honest answer. I leave. No, obviously, if I'm in the boat, it's much, much easier if you're fishing from a boat because if you get to a spot that you normally catch fish or that you've had success at in the past, and if you're fishing with live shrimp, I mean, I think it's a pretty good rule of thumb. If you're not getting bit in 5 or 10 minutes, you need to find another spot. I mean, just being 100% real honest with you here, it's. If you've got a live shrimp on the end of your line and you're fishing a dock and you're not getting bit, those fish are either not going to bite or they're not there. You need to move on. Don't continue. And I was very, very guilty of this at first. If it was a spot where had caught a fish before, I would sit there for an hour trying to catch fish. Obviously, if you're not catching fish on live shrimp, you need to go somewhere else because they're just not there. They're going to at least bite live shrimp. So with the boat, it's very, very easy. And on the beach, if I'm being honest with you, that is the truth. I may jump and jack one time and move over to a little bit different spot. But my thing is, if you're set up on the beach for 2 hours and you never even get a hit, the bite might just not be there that day. I mean, you might not be tearing up the world. I'm not saying that, but I'll usually give beach fishing 2-3 hours at the most, and then if I'm not getting a bite or it seems like it's doing something, then I usually bounce and kind of roll out. So, and I'm not saying that's the best thing to do, but it is definitely what I do. So,
yeah, but what's best for one is not good for the other.
Sure, and it's a big difference, and people can say or not say all they want to that it's the same thing if you're a content creator. There are certain content creators out there who are all about the fishing. Joey Antonelli's an amazing fisherman, and he can go out and catch just about anything he wants to catch anytime. That's not me. I have to add an entertainment factor to it because I'm not the best fisherman out there. Now, I've gotten a lot better at it, but I'm not the best fisherman, out there on the beach or on a boat or whatever. So I have to account and I have to add some entertainment factor in there. And I consider my channel an entertainment channel. So with that being said, right now is a prime example. I was talking about the guys being out on a guy trip. We go out, they want to fish all day. When I go out, if I catch 4 or 5 good fish, it's time to go to the house. Like my video's done, we'll come back and try again tomorrow. And that's just the difference and that's probably why I'm not very good at fishing is because of that. But that's the difference for like an entertainment mentality and a fishing. I still love fishing. I don't want to make it sound like that, but obviously, from a content creation standpoint, if I can go out and make a video in an hour, that video, and I know that video is going to do well from a financial standpoint, because let's be honest, it's all a business. I mean, everything we do is a business. If you can go out and make a video in an hour and you don't have to burn extra boat fuel and extra bait and all this stuff, you're killing it that day, because tomorrow I might go out and it might take me 8 hours to make a 20-minute video. So I kind of account for that from a standpoint of bouncing around. I will do anything I can to catch the most fish or the best fish, most fish, whatever it is possible in the shortest amount of time, just from a content. And sometimes I just don't have that much time. Sometimes it's a 2-hour afternoon and that's all the time I have. So I don't give spots very much time when I'm out fishing, because now that's not the case when I was first starting, but now, I just don't give it very much time because it's time to roll on if I'm not catching something there pretty quick.
Well, time is money. I mean,
yes.
If you can nail it in an hour, why not?
Right. Oh yeah. It would. I will tell you this: people struggle with timelines of videos, though, which I totally get. I mean, I understand, but like, you'll have people that'll come down and it'll be a slow day. And like, I don't understand. Like, every time I see you fishing, you're crushing it. Like, you'll catch like 15 fish in 20 minutes, and I'm like, no. You saw me catch 15 fish in a 20-minute video. That's not what happened. Like, you have to roll it back a little bit and understand there was a lot of editing involved. Now, sometimes it happens like that. Like, I went out one day to the canals over off the Sound and literally caught 35 redfish in less than an hour. And I'm just like, heck yeah. Like, if I'd have took a different shirt that day, I'd have made 2 videos, but I just didn't that day. So sometimes it's like that, but it's very rare that happens.
There you go, content creators. Now you remember, put in your dry bag, extra shirt.
Yes. What's crazy is I normally do, and I do that just from an efficiency standpoint, because there's sometimes videos are just made. If I go out to 3 Mile Bridge and I catch 2 bull reds, that's kind of a video. Like, I can make enough filler content to make that a video. So if I planned on fishing all day, I usually do have an extra shirt in the camera bag, and I'll change shirts and I'll just go start another video. And there's nothing wrong with that. No. That's not me like giving away secrets or anything like that. It's just, if I'm on the water and I get enough footage for one full video and I feel like it's a good, solid video that I can present to my audience, why not throw on a different shirt and go out and make another video that same day? That's good time management on your part if you can make that work.
Yeah. One of the pieces, and this is why I love podcasting over you guys on the YouTube one, because for me, I have an attention span problem. So if I'm watching something, you got me for a minute. I got to get the hook. But one thing I noticed with podcasts was it's like an audiobook. Yep. You can go as long as the car's running, as long as you're on the treadmill, whatever you want.
And I do that. Like, when as much as I travel, that's what I do. I just turn on podcasts, and I enjoy listening to them. I mean, I'll listen back to some of the ones I've done with some of the bigger creators, because even when you're sitting there with them, a lot of the time, you miss stuff. Even when they're saying, because like if I ask somebody a question while they're answering, a lot of times I'm thinking about my next question, and I'm just being honest about that from a standpoint of
I'm not doing that right now.
Yeah, no, right. So, but I mean, so you do miss a lot. So it's always a good idea. I mean, I do it to make myself better on the podcast front. just to go back and listen to them and be like, yeah, I would have done this different, or I would have asked this question different. I've been so fortunate at this point that a lot of the creators I've worked with are so good on camera that it's just like, it's effortless for them. Like Daniel Arms, Darcizzle, those guys, like they're so easy to work with. You ask a question and they're content creators. They're entertainers through and through, and they fire off with it. And it's so much easier than if you're sitting right down time to talk to somebody that's not comfortable on camera or not comfortable having those conversations. It definitely makes a huge difference to have that.
Well, for sure it does.
Yeah.
And it's the bad thing. Like long form content is awesome. Because long form, you can take that time and you can dig into small pieces and just have at it. And in the YouTube world, long form content is just a tough one to ask somebody, hey, I need you to give me an hour of your time with your eyeballs and your brain.
Yeah, and they won't. And it's just they catch bits and pieces of it. All you can hope is that they come back and watch later. I will tell you that 2 of the 5 biggest videos on my channel are podcasts. And a lot of it had to do with the creators I was sitting down with, but people came back and watched them, and it's because those retention rates are so high. But one of them was Daniel Arms. I know you've heard me mention him a couple of times. Daniel and I have become very good friends, and he has got, I would venture to guess, one of the most loyal audiences on the platform, bar none. His demographics is 65-year-old plus ladies. They love him, they love his farm, they love his animals, and they hang on to his every single word. So when you can put somebody like that, on a channel with you that has such a loyal following, inevitably that video is going to do well. It's going to hit the algorithm because as soon as they find it, they're going to watch it from start to finish. And it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with Daniel Arms is sitting there, and they want more than he could ever give them in that hour. So he normally posts a 20-minute video. So when they log on and they see an hour-long video of nothing but him sitting there talking, they eat it up. They love it. And he's got such a loyal audience like that. It's amazing.
It is your third and final bait check of the episode. Hopefully you're listening to this on the car ride home. You caught a bunch of fish and all is well in the world. But if not, hey, that's okay. You're still out there fishing. You've only been out there an hour. Life's good. You got the whole day. Enjoy yourself. This bait check is being brought to you by The Sinker Guy. Go on over to thesinkerguy.com and take a look at all the stuff that Chip's got going on in the Sinker Guy garage. The Bruno rig? Oh, man. You hear me talk about it all the time. Why? Because it works, man. It works. It does. The Mortician rig, lots of good stuff with that. You can get snoods, or if you need beads, floats, gear, terminal tackle, equipment like scissors, or the awesome threading tool that helps you put your rigs together. And if you haven't seen that, you need to go over to Chip's YouTube page or his Facebook page, The Sinker Guy, and take a look at the stuff there. He's trying to help you catch more fish. That's always great stuff right there. So again, go on over to thesinkerguy.com, get your order in today. So after doing all the social media pieces and running a channel and these ones there, what has been some of the greatest lessons learned for you?
Oh, man. From a fishing standpoint or from a content standpoint?
Let's do fishing first and then we'll do content.
Okay, from a fishing standpoint, it is don't overthink and don't over tackle. I think you, as a content creator and as a content creator fisherman, it's the hardest genre to be in. From a content creation standpoint, and I mean that is because the actors in your video don't know they're acting in your video. They don't always get the memo that they have to show up that day to make a video. And what I mean by that is some days you just don't catch fish. You do and everybody has that. It's not just content creators. But for us, it's like you go out with a plan. And I think the biggest thing I learned early on is no matter what my plan is, I'm prepared to swerve from a fishing standpoint at any given time. If I go out and I was like head set on making a redfish video that day, but then I go out in the bay and bonita are blowing up everywhere, we just decided to make a bonita video. But I've seen people who refuse to do that. From a fishing standpoint, they want to go out and they want to catch redfish. They want to catch something they can take home and do a catch and cook, which I totally get. I understand 100% where they're coming from. But from me being more of an entertainment channel, it doesn't really matter to me. As long as I'm catching fish, my audience is usually happy with that. So that's the biggest lesson I've learned in fishing is have a plan. Know what you're going out there to do, but don't be scared to veer off of that plan and go in a different direction if you see something that is more enticing or maybe is a higher chance of being successful at it, because that it will present itself if you allow it to. Prime example, I had a comment the other day. There's a spot right down here in Bayou Chico that Literally, no matter where I go, if I'm on my boat, I have to pass this spot. I've been very, very successful at this spot. I will always throw a line in there. Why would I not? Because but I had somebody comment like, man, you wear that out. You're killing those same 50 fish in there and da-da-da. And I'm like, what does it matter? Like if I went out to catch fish today and I was able to catch 20 fish and only get 100 yards from the boat dock, why would I not do that?
Exactly.
Tell me one person that goes out fishing today and they walk out on the beach with their surf cart and all their stuff and there's Spanish mackerel and bluefish and whatever blowing up right in front of them, and they set up right where they walked out on the beach, and why would they go anywhere else? Why would they pass that up and be like, I know that I see fish there and that looks like a successful spot, but I'm going to go try to find something else.
I'm going to make it harder.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's hard enough for me as it is. Like, I don't need to make it any harder. I told my wife, and I told the story on the Morning Vibe on my podcast, and I was like, you know, it's the equivalent of what he said is basically this. Imagine you're a single dude. We don't want to get any married guys in trouble. And every day you walk past your mailbox and there is a beautiful girl waiting there. She grabs you, she gives you a kiss, smacks you on the butt and says, I hope you have a great day today. Would you ever not walk by your mailbox?
No.
Absolutely. And that's what that spot is for me. I go out there, I put a line in the water, I usually catch a trout, it comes up, smacks me on the cheek and says, hey, have a great day out there, buddy. And that's what we do. I mean, why would I pass that up ever? Nope. Nobody's going to pass that up. So you have to be willing to swerve from your fishing plan a little bit. You know, that's going to be key, especially saltwater. Like, golly, especially saltwater, because there's so many different options out there that you may not even realize you have on that day.
Well, like you said, we had the weird catches all of a sudden. Like weird ones out of nowhere. Had you not had a line in the water, you never would have.
Never would have known.
So
never would have known. Yeah.
Totally worth it. All right. So from that, that's the fishing standpoint. What about on the content?
On the content creation, I think don't overthink yourself. I think at the very beginning, I think I was trying to pretend like I was something I wasn't. You can see it in my old videos. Like if you go watch, I've taken some of them down just because they really weren't me at all. And I think in the beginning, I didn't think that the audience would enjoy me, and I think at the end of the day that's what they enjoy the most. I've never been one on my channel I don't have to go out and catch hero fish. My audience, they enjoy the content from a standpoint of whatever I'm catching, but I've never sold my channel as I'm going to go out here and be the best fisherman you've ever seen. You know, I get excited over the small fish, like the soap fish. It was partially a joke, but it partially wasn't. I mean, it had been kind of aggravating that I'm fishing right beside people that are pulling these things up left and right. It had been going on for 2 weeks. And I mean, and keep this in mind, like this is how my mind thinks from a content creation standpoint. I literally, in this time frame, this is no exaggeration, you can go back and watch the videos, I caught triggerfish. I caught keeper red snapper. I was catching sharks. I was catching keeper sheep's head. And all I wanted was a damn soapfish.
She was one of the booger.
That's all I wanted was a soapfish. I'm catching these and then if you don't understand, I'm in the bay, right? So triggerfish in the bay is awesome. It's one of the coolest catches we have. They're definitely there. But I mean, I'm catching good fish. It's not like I'm not catching fish. I don't want to sell it like that. If you've seen the videos, you know. I'm catching good fish, but I wanted a soapfish. And I wanted a soapfish because I needed it for the species, but it's all part of that entertainment side of things too. I'm fully aware that on my channel, I could go out tomorrow and I could catch a 40-inch snook. My audience would respond no different to that than me catching that soapfish. And it has nothing to do with the fish, but it has everything to do with my level of excitement for what I'm catching. Your audience is only going to get as excited as you do. So if you make it, that's why I try to avoid using the term trash fish, because is it a trash fish? Yeah. I mean, technically in the standards, that's what it's considered. But I say on my channel all the time, I'm going out here to bend a rod, and whatever that does is, I don't care. One of the greatest things I've ever gotten, and I get stuff all the time. I'm sure you do too. Everybody, well, yeah, you're not on YouTube though. So I have
a win there where I don't have that problem.
So every content creator, once you hit a certain level of content creation, we're very, very blessed because of the people that we've had the opportunity to work with, that our popularity supersedes our size. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. It just does. And that's a sheer factor of the people that we've had the ability and been blessed to work with. So with that, you get a lot of stuff: rods, reels, tackle. Like my wife, if you show up at my doorstep, just like Jehovah's Witness showed up the other day, she gave me a bag of tackle. That's what she does. It's like she's just trying to get rid of it at any given time. But with that, the greatest thing I've ever gotten was from Tony, and it was that daggone runt rod.
You love that runt rod.
I have more fun with that because I feel like at this point, like I know Tony will give me another. I feel like at this point I'm trying to break it. And it's the greatest like little micro fishing rod I've ever had in my hands. I take this thing out to the wrecks and I'm dropping down. Like I pulled up like a 21-inch sheep's head with the runt rod the other day out of structure. And it's like, I love that thing. Like it's just that it gets me excited. I don't need to catch a big fish. If I catch a 12-inch mangrove or 12-inch red snapper that puts up this insane fight on that runt rod, I'm having just as much fun if I'm catching a third. And I mean that. Like, that's not because I'm not catching that. I mean that. Like, I love catching stuff. It's the greatest gift I've ever gotten on my YouTube channel is that runt rod. Like, I absolutely love fishing with that thing.
You've definitely been wearing it out.
Oh, dude. But, I mean, I've caught some killer fish with it.
You have.
I've caught grouper. I've caught sheep's head, red snapper. Everybody else is using them for pompano, which is what Tony wanted.
Right.
Tom, I mean, I'm a firm believer. Tony and I have a great relationship. I'm sure Tony would rather see, I don't want to say he would rather see me. He made that rod for people to try to catch pompano with it.
Right. For the
so
close
I
shot.
decided to take it to the wrecks because why wouldn't I? And I'm just like dead dropping this thing. And I've crushed some major fish with that. I mean, I caught my first, like I said, a 21-inch sheep's head the other day with it. That's the biggest fish I've caught. And I have a video. Tony and I are both convinced because I was looking at my graph that I hooked a Goliath grouper with it.
I heard about that.
And the only reason I think that is just because of the way the fish act. I've actually hooked one Goliath grouper with Joey Antonelli on normal tackle. And of course, it ultimately broke me off because we were on a boat and we were using fairly light tackle. But it was the same characteristics, and I saw it on the graph. I saw this blob. And, like, if you're familiar with a fish, I don't have a live scope, but if you're familiar with a fishing graph, if a fish swims away really fast, it'll kind of make an arc and a line. This didn't. It just kept showing up on my graph a little bit farther away each time. And it was like the weirdest fight ever. It like obviously didn't even know that it was hooked with the runt rod. It was just like, whatever, I don't care. And it's just like swimming away slowly. And then when it finally did decide it didn't want to play anymore, it was gone. But that was my cool runt rod. There was no way I was getting that fish up, but it was just like I felt like the two tips were touching each other. Like the handle and the tip was like bouncing off each other on the bottom.
You bring up Joey Antonelli from before. I remember when he went out, he had his drop. I think he had his Go Fish Cam. I think that's what it was, or something, or maybe a GoPro. But he dropped it down, and they were sheep's head fishing. And that Goliath came and ate that sheep's head in one bite.
Yep.
And Joey got everything back,
Yep.
thankfully. But after I saw that, I realized Goliaths are not to be trifled with.
No.
They are powerful.
I mean, have you seen? I don't know the person that did it, but have you seen the one where it ate the spinner shark?
No.
Literally, they're like swimming it around, and you can't really get a good read because it is all like way down in the depths underwater. So you can't really get a good read on how big the shark was. So I don't want to say it was giant. I mean, it looked to be like a 4 or 5 foot shark. And literally, like, it's just like cruising along, and this Goliath grouper just, and all you see is its tail flopping in the Goliath grouper. That's it. Like, it literally like swallowed this. And like I said, it looked like it was a 4 or 5 foot, spinner shark. Could have been like perception may have been off and may have been a little shorter, but either way, it ate a whole shark. Like, it just like gulped it down. So they're not like, you do not want to mess with a Goliath grouper under any circumstances because those dudes they're not. I mean, I would love to catch one, but it's Brant caught one with Joey down on the pier down there in Sebastian Inlet. They were able to get one up. And the cool thing about if you're not familiar with Joey Antonelli, Joey's one of the few people in the state of Florida that can actually take them out of the water because he does scientific research for them. He does the fin clippings and stuff like that. You have to have a whole permit and that kind of stuff to do that. He's one of the few people that's allowed to do that. So if you're ever fishing with Joey and you catch one, you can legally take it out of the water, which is, pretty cool. So
Yeah. Joey's a hell of an angler, and he's got a great channel. And
dude,
lots of fun.
Honestly, I would say, in all seriousness, as far as just straight fishing skills, I would put Joey Antonelli up against anybody else in the country. He just catches so many fish. He showed me a clip when I was down there with him. I did a podcast with him, and we went fishing together. He had a video where he was spearfishing. His buddy was on a boat, hook and line fishing, hooked a cobia, got it to the boat, lost it, and it was diving back down. And in the time he lost the fish, it got back in the water. Joey got his spear out, drew it, and shot the fish.
I'll get it for you, buddy.
It was his fish at that point. It's like he told his buddy when he got out of the water, he's like, hey, you would not have gotten that fish back if it hadn't been for me. That's my fish now. So it got about 15 foot below the boat, and Joey drew his spear and like nailed this cobia. It was amazing. It was a really, really cool video that he had. So.
Oh man, he's had a lot of fun stuff.
Oh, dude, he's such a great fisherman. Like when you talk about reading water and knowing a fishery, he's top notch. He really is.
So while you're doing this 50 fish line that you got and with all the travel, is there a bucket list fish?
Yes.
Yes. I saw your face light up.
Yeah, there is. I've got to catch tarpon this year. I've never caught a tarpon, small or big. I've never hooked one, never landed one. But I have a plan in place. Okay. So my goal is right now, of course, I want to get 50 species on the year, but I really want the tarpon to be the 50th species.
I want that the closer?
I do. I really do. I kind of have a plan in place. I have a vision in mind for what I want that to be. And I think I can make it happen because we've been fortunate so far. We're at 32 species on the year. I've not caught really anything freshwater yet. That's not just saltwater fish. That's total. I'm already at 32, and I've got a pretty good plan in place to get to 49 fairly quickly. So it's I definitely want to catch tarpon, man. And I've got a buddy who can definitely make that happen. So I have a good feeling. I've never really targeted him that much, except for down on OIP, Okaloosa Island Pier, and that's just a whole different that's a different level of fisherman. It really is, and I mean that wholeheartedly. Those guys are. That's something to see. If you've never been down there, like if you're not really like a great angler, but you want to see great anglers catch fish, and it's not everybody down there fishing, you'll know pretty quick. There's a certain level of fishermen down there on that pier that starts landing tarpon. They're great. They're just great anglers. So I don't know that I would ever be able to actually land one. Just being honest, maybe someday with my fishing level, I might be able to get to that point, but I just don't. I wouldn't be comfortable that I would be able to land it on the pier at that point, but I do have a plan in place to catch a big tarpon this year. So
they're silver missiles. Yeah, they are just powerful fish.
They are, and I've watched so many videos on what to do. I've talked to my buddy that I'm going out with. I don't want to give anything away because
absolutely. I
will tell you guys this. If we make this happen this year, if you're not tuned into the Cameraman Ron channel, not to give myself a shameless plug, but
please plug it.
Yeah. So if you're not tuned into the Cameraman Ron channel, this will be the most cinematic YouTube video we've ever made. We have got like major things in place to make this happen. So that's definitely the bucket list fish. There's a few others out there. I mean, honestly, I can honestly say most of the fish that when I started fishing that I wanted to catch, I've caught. I've been very blessed in that regards. Caught mahi was one of my bucket list fish when I first got started. I've caught those. I've caught kingfish. There's obviously a lot of the big like pelagics. I've never caught a sailfish, but I've never really targeted them either. For the most part, there's not a lot of fish that I've got on a list that I wanted to catch that I haven't caught, but the tarpon is the one that has eluded me up to this point. So we got a plan in place though.
Well, I look forward to when you get it.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty
50.
cool. Yeah, pretty cool. Oh, it's gonna be 50. It's gonna be because here's what's gonna happen. Once I hit 49, I'm not doing anything else until I catch the tarpon. I know how to make that tarpon be number 50. Like I've got that part figured out. So.
Okay.
Or if I do, I won't show you guys. How about that? I won't show you all till after the tarpon.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. Either way, it's going to be number 50.
Yeah, it's going to be number 50 no matter what. So just a little giveaway there.
So people coming down here to ever go fishing, what is some advice you'd give to a brand new angler?
Don't over tackle. I think that's the most important thing. When you get here, and this is, I don't take this as a knock on the tackle stores because it's not. They're just putting out what people make. You're going to see the biggest, shiniest, like, this looks like what I need to fish, whether you're doing it in the surf or however you're doing it. Don't over tackle. Tackle for the fish that you're targeting. I said this in a video a couple weeks ago. If you're on the pier and you're targeting mangrove snapper, you don't need 80-pound leader with an 8-0 circle hook. You're not going to catch mangrove snapper with that. It's just not realistic. So you need to use the tackle that you're targeting. Unless you are down there like searching for, tarpon, you're probably going to be fine with 20, 25, 30-pound leader on the pier. If you're targeting Spanish, you probably need a little bit heavier leader than 20-pound. I would say 30 or 40. But like these big wire leaders with the orange beads and the 14-ounce weight and all this, I call them tourist traps. Don't over tackle. You don't have to come down here with a 8500 series reel to beach fish. You can go out there with a 3500 series reel with a pompano rig, and the one thing you're gonna be like defeated on a little bit is the length of your rod. That's going to be the most important thing for surf fishing. And I mean, you want a good rod, but I think at the end of the day, I've seen people out there with the $30 surf fishing setup from Walmart catch pompano right along, us guys that are out there using $400 setups with Ninja tackles and Penn slammers. I think tackle for me is more of a longevity thing than it is like a necessity thing. Like, I use good gear because I want it to last, because I'm on salt water every day. I think that's where it gets. But if you're just coming down here for a week and you're going to buy a surf fishing setup, go buy you a Penn, or go buy you a Tsunami at Walmart with an 11-foot surf rod. As long as you can get that bait out there, you're going to be fine. But just, you do not need. I mean, I did it. I was guilty of it. I'm like fishing from my kayak and I'm using like 80-pound braid connected to a 100-pound leader with a hook like this, and I'm fishing the Barrancas Bridge. There's nothing there that's going to eat that. That's the biggest thing. Like, if you're coming to the area, just don't over tackle yourself. You're going to have a much higher success rate using. We've got a ton of quality pompano rig makers right here in our area. James Pemberton from Frisky Fins. You got Salty from Salty's Pompano Rigs. You can go to any tackle store and buy those. That's and it's like you said earlier, that's good. You can catch anything on that. You put a set rig out in the surf, you have potential to catch anything out there, from a pompano all the way up to a red drum, a shark. I mean, you can catch a shark on a pompano. It's not as likely because they're probably going to cut it, but you can definitely catch them on that as well. So just don't over tackle yourself. I think it's the biggest advice I can give to people that comes down.
So you start talking about weird species. One night on an old because every video I do is on Justin Reed Fishing, since Justin does his channel. And
Justin's such a cool dude,
he lets
man.
me hang out with him. I like that.
Justin's a cool dude. You can come hang out with us anytime, man. Come out on the makeup with us sometime. We'll take you out.
I'd be happy to. I just love fishing.
Yeah.
But we were out one night. We were catching mangrove snapper from the beach. It's like, what the hell are these doing? I mean, we had just finished being at over at Wahoo, playing those zones, going after them, and it's like, I can't hook it to save my ass. I'm getting pinned left and right, and we go out to the surf and we're catching 12 inchers. It's like, come on, man.
And it's always fun when you get an unexpected catch like that. I'm pretty sure it was Dylan and them. They caught a sheep's head from the beach on a set rig here not too long ago, and that was a really. Somebody said the other day, and this is one of the coolest things about being a content creator. Every fish I catch is documented. Yeah, and it's a blessing and a curse, but I never have to tell a fish story. Most of the time, if something happens, I have video proof to back it up. I can say this now because I know this won't come out till after. I caught, it was probably last week's video. I caught a mangrove snapper. Earlier in the day, we had caught the shark, and the mangrove, we had to cut line because the shark went crazy, and we were on the boat and got a bunch of lines tangled up. Well, I thought all the lines was in the boat. I snipped it off, and it wasn't. I let line go in the water, which if you guys know me, I hate putting line in the water. Yeah. It's one of my it literally drives me nuts. So I was already kind of halfway upset that we had let line go in the water because I thought it was in the boat. I kid you not. I caught a mangrove snapper, and it had line wrapped in its teeth. And I thought it was my buddy's line. I was like, Jerry, he's tangled up in your pole. And he's like, no. He's like, mine's in. It was the line I'd lost. So I'm like, I'm like telling the camera, I'm like, this is awesome. I'm like, I'm getting this line and hook back out of the water. I'm like, because I'd already made a big deal earlier because I was upset because we'd lost the line in the water. I get it halfway up, and I'm like, wouldn't it be crazy if there was a fish on here? I pull it up. Another soapfish. 100% had another soapfish on the thing. So that's just the kind of stuff that like people wouldn't believe it if they did. And I made sure that in the video I put it all on there. It's one clip because obviously you can do some things in the power of editing. Right. I mean, it's just that's again how you make it entertaining. But I put all that in there in one solid clip. My buddy's over here like talking about buying a house or something crazy in the video, and I'm sure people are like, why in the world did you not just cut all that out? And I'm like, I didn't cut it because I wanted people to see from start to finish, from the time I caught the mangrove until the time we pulled the line up, there's no cuts in there. And it's sometimes stuff like that happens. And that's one of those stories, like if you come back and you tell somebody, that's very hard to believe. It's like, yeah, I bet that really happened. But for us, it's cool because we've always got cameras rolling, and it's like you can see it. When something like that happens, you don't have to just go back and tell the story. You've got visual confirmation that happened. That's always a really, really cool place. So
definitely. That was a smart move to let it run.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it was I always have the camera on. So my third person, I keep rolling all the time. I keep it hooked up to constant power. So it is always on. And just a little editing trick in case you guys are getting started. I get questions all the time for editing and like all these little different things about content creation. Keep your camera rolling all the time if you're able to, and then the second you catch a fish and you get done with it, turn it off. And then that way, your fish is always at the end of the clip. It's much easier to find your footage at that point. Or if anything happens, if you do a talking piece or something like that, restart your camera every single time. And then no matter what you're doing when you're going through the editing process, your important stuff is at the end of that video. So it's much easier to find at that point.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Real smart.
I try.
Well, I'll give you the last question so you can get back to the normal day.
All right.
We're going right on a good timeline. What's next for you?
Man, what's next for me? Well, I would say this. There's a lot of like craziness stirring around the Cameraman Ron front right now. I think everybody knows that. I think right now the biggest thing for us is just to keep grinding away and keep growing. We've been so blessed to have a very loyal audience that's followed us. I mean, just continue to get better on the fishing side. Content creation in the outdoor industry is crazy difficult. It's probably one of the most difficult genres that we do. And I think for me, the next steps is to just keep getting better, keep posting. We're very, very consistent. We post at least twice a week. Every now and then I'll drop a third bonus video on the weekend if something's, doing that. I try to listen to the audience and I try to give them exactly what they're asking for and what they're wanting. And I think that's it. I think we'll continue to collaborate with other creators. One of my favorite things to do is collaborate. And then a lot of people get this idea that, I only work with big creators, because I have worked with some big creators. I mean, when you start working with, the people we've worked with here, and then the Darcys and the Brians, and, you got Brant, and then you got Daniel, and all these guys, like, we've been so blessed. So a lot of times I'll get a message from a smaller creator and they'll be like, I know, I'm like, hey, like, I'll fish with anybody. Like, I love collaborating with other creators. So it's like, it's not just, you see that because you know who they are. But if you look back to our videos, there's been way more times that I've worked with channels that are way smaller than us than I've worked with the bigger creators. Those just tend to stick out because you know who they are. So when you turn that video on and you see a Darcy or a Daniel, you're like, oh, I know them. So those stick out in your mind. But there's plenty of videos where I've worked with smaller channels as well. And we're going to continue to do that. Obviously, we're very focused on growing Sara's channel, the Coastal Country brand right now. Ideally within the next 2 years, we'll completely dial out of the wedding industry. I think that's the goal right now. But just keep having fun. Our channel, if you're not subscribed to our channel, or you don't know anything about us, we're all about fun. I mean, I have an alter ego on that channel. I mean, it's like we do all kinds of crazy stuff over there and we make it fun. It's not just, boring you to death. I will tell you right now, and I'm open with the audience. If you're coming just to see straight fishing content, we're not the channel for you. I mean, I'm just being 100% honest with you. We do a lot of fishing, but we do a lot of fun stuff on there too. So it's a cross between the two. But we'll just continue to grow the brand and continue with the podcast and just grind away, man. I mean, that's really all we can do. We're at the mercy of everybody else at this point. All we can do is just grind away. So.
I know it sounds horrible, and I'm going to say it anyway, because, why not? We're already at that point. It should have been the last question, but now I want to.
Oh, that's fine.
Working with the small channels, it seems, nothing against the big guys, nothing ever. But the little ones is kind of fun. Like the hunger is a little bit heavier,
yes.
but it's a lot guiding lesson too.
Yep. Yeah, and it's, you brought up Justin Reed. Justin's a great dude, local surf fisherman here in the area. Got a channel. Brent and Julie, you had them on a couple weeks ago. It's fun because you see yourself from 2 years ago of where you were, and they have all these questions. And I'm big on sharing knowledge, especially from a content creation standpoint. There's room for everybody in this game. It's, there's no rule out there that's like, oh, I subscribe to Cameraman Ron, so I can't subscribe to Brian Demo.
Right.
You're not limited to one subscription. So it's way more about cooperation than it is competition. And I think that's my favorite thing about working with smaller channels, because I can tell you 100% confidently that I have learned a ton from small channels that are way smaller than me. And they do things that, I'll take back and integrate on the Cameraman Ron channel, because it's like, man, that's a great idea. You don't have to be, a 25,000, 100,000 subscriber channel to have great ideas. It's just, that's such a common misconception. Your ideas just haven't been put out there yet, and people haven't latched onto those. So, when collaborations are king in my opinion, because it takes all the pressure off of you. It really, even like with my wife, like if my wife comes out on the, if you don't know who Sara is, my wife, the PYT, of course, everybody loves her. She is such a lovable character on the Cameraman Ron channel, and she takes all the pressure off me. I don't have to worry about the entertainment side of things when she's out there with me because she does it. She takes care of that side of it. And don't be scared to be present on other people's videos. I think that's, if I had to, I know you didn't ask for advice, but if there was one thing I had to give to up and coming creators, you don't always have to get something out of it to help someone else out. So prime example, I had a creator came into town 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was like, man, I'm super limited on time, but I got this idea that I'd love you to help me out with. Would you be down? And it was something super simple. He was doing like a cooking challenge or whatever. And I'm like, heck yeah. So I went over and I just made literally like a 1-minute cameo in his video, and his audience loved it. They ate it up. I didn't benefit from that at all, but from a standpoint of financially, but that's not how you look at it. You have to look at it of, one, if I ever need anything, he's going to be right there to help me out because I was there to help him out. That's just the way it works in the content creation world. Plus, he only has 500 or 600 subscribers or whatever it is, but that might be 500 or 600 people I've never been in front of before. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me whether you've got 10 or 10,000. That's an opportunity for me to be in front of new people. And so it has nothing to do with how many you have as much as how engaged they are. I've said forever, when people send me a message and they ask me to collaborate with them, I don't look at your subscriber count. I don't look at your views. I honestly could care less. The first thing I'm going to look at is when the last time you uploaded. As long as you upload regularly, I'm game. Now, if I look at your channel and you haven't uploaded in 6 months, you probably need to collaborate with yourself before you try to collaborate with other people. You got to make some videos. But yeah, if you're on a normal upload schedule, I'm all about it every single time.
That's smart, especially if you're looking at trying to do that for the collaboration piece.
Yes. Like I said, you don't have to put yourself in front of, a million people. That just makes it more right. Now, does that help? Sure. Absolutely. Like when I'm on Daniel Arms's video with his 750,000 subs, absolutely it helps me out. I mean, I'm not trying to kid anybody here, but it's just a broader range, but you're doing the exact same thing. Anytime you can put yourself in front of new people who are not used to seeing you, you're giving them the opportunity to get to know you, to get to know your personality, and to get to know your content.
Definitely. Dude, this has been fun.
Absolutely.
Thanks for letting me come to your office.
Anytime.
I like it.
Anytime you need to come out and film a podcast, or I keep saying film. We're not. And like, if you guys could see me right now, I've spent more time looking at I wish we could take Brian should have got his camera out and just filmed a little bit.
Here, like we should just do like a quick shot after.
I know, and it's like I've spent more time looking at this camera in front of me because we're on the set of work. So I have 2 channels, just so everybody knows. And I will shamelessly plug myself.
Please.
Yeah, we have the Cameraman Ron channel, which is what I call my main channel. That's where we post most of our fishing content, all the Eugene stuff's over there. And then we have a much smaller channel on my side called The Morning Vibe, and that's where I shoot my podcast. And I told Brian they're not even really a podcast because I don't upload them to any podcast platform. I literally just uploaded them to YouTube. But we're actually at the set where I film my morning. I've got my camera set up and everything. And I keep looking at the camera like it's going to do anything for me. And it literally has a lens cap on it. You should have
taken the cap off.
Maybe, but I think that would have made it even worse because every now and then I look up and I'm like, why in the hell am I still looking at this camera? Like I need to be looking at Brian, not the camera. But it's just like it happens that way sometimes. But yeah, so, and then of course I would be remiss if I didn't give my wife's channel a shout out, Coastal Country. Huge shout out to her. She just hit 1,000 subscribers.
Nice.
So she is killing it over there on her. I know we got to wrap it up, but I will tell you her channel pisses me off a little bit.
Uh-oh.
What pisses me off is if I go back and look at my first video, garbage. Garbage. Her first video, she looks like the Pensacola Tourism Board hired her to come in and do the best coffees in Pensacola, which was her first video. I'm talking like transitions, walking in and outdoors. She's got all this knowledge that we picked up over the last 4 years, and she like implements it into her, and she went so hard. Like she went so hard on her first video, and I'm like, my first video, garbage. Your first video, movie quality. Like what the hell? Like how did that just? But she went so hard on that first one, it was ridiculous.
Can't go hard on the first one.
She did though, man. She did. Like when you look at her first video, like it's like she'd been filming, which she had been filming for 5 years. I mean, we're professional videographers, and she already knew the YouTube game, right? Because we already, and she's been instrumental on the Cameraman Ron channel. She's been such a huge part of that on camera and behind the scenes. I can't even stress enough. But she certainly took all of that knowledge and made that first video. And you could tell she was like trying to stab me in the back. Like you could just tell, like I felt it that day. She was like, I'm going to do this so much better than you ever have. And she did. She did. Like completely, she did it. So yeah, it pissed me off a little.
Oh, marriage.
I'm not bitter. You're bitter, Brian.
No. I didn't detect any of it.
That's right.
Believe me, I could talk to you all day now. I mean, that's the bad thing with podcasts. We start getting rolling.
Yeah. So here's the thing: we're gonna do another one. I think we're gonna try to do one on the Morning Vibe in the very near future. We'll get Brian to come back out and we'll do one where I can actually look at the camera, and it will matter.
I'll make sure I'm all hey.
Yeah. You just got to look at the camera, but we'll definitely do that. It's been a pleasure sitting down with you, man, and trying to. Hopefully, I answered some of your questions appropriately and inappropriately too. So
you hit everything I wanted.
Hey,
so life's good for me.
That's all that matters.
Lots of good knowledge, lots of good pieces, and people obviously know where they can come. We'll get all the link backs back onto either it's findingdemosurfishing.com or you can find it on the Transistor homepage. All the links of everyone that was mentioned, things like that, they will all be linked back. Make sure you're following on all of those pieces, subscribe, because in reality, you're going to see more of this good stuff as we go. So you've been listening to Finding Demo Surf Fishing. I'm out of here.